Greetings. Welcome again to our third session of the general information that's delivered by the Government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada for its members and other people to understand what we are, who we are, and where we're going. I have to start with an opportunity to thank the hundreds and hundreds of calls that we've been getting regarding the information that's being delivered. A mega comment, let's call it like that, has asked me by a multiple of people to take a step back. People have actually told me that I'm going a little fast. People actually told me that the message that's being delivered is a bit condensed and hard to follow because they say that the information I'm giving you is very particular, very specific, and that they need time to listen to it and understand it. One of my chiefs from Chibougamau, which is called Luc Michaud, called me up today. And he says, you know, Grand Chief, I have to tell you that when you're teaching to people, and let me tell you one thing, Luc Michaud was actually one of the high-placed individual at Hydro-Quebec. So Luc Michaud is an individual that's pretty well educated and understands complex things. And I'm not saying other people don't, I'm just saying that he's on the ball. And Lucas told me, he says, when we go to classes, they will teach us that we will learn between 10-20% maximum. The rest is all over the roof. And I tend to agree with that because I used to teach technology when I owned a college. And I knew that there was a certain time where you could see the face of people not following anymore. And I normally provided a break or something so we could continue after. I do encourage you to get this kit, because this kit contains all the information that we're talking about. Multiple decisions, multiple work that's been done internationally, multiple correspondence, and it's called the General Information Kit of the Government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada. So initially they asked me, they said, could you explain to people what is the difference between a confederation, an association, and a federation? And I realized that I have to be extremely transparent with you and say, I did not understand why people would ask me that, because for me it's kind of straightforward. And when it's straightforward, well, I guess you assume that everybody knows it, and they don't. And I have to congratulate you for asking me to take a step back to be able to provide that information to you, and why I don't belong to an association, for example, like the Confederation of Quebec, which initially was an association. So in 2003, as I said previously in other recordings, I was elected Provincial Grand Chief of Quebec for an association that was called the Native Alliance of Quebec. And through our development, I knew right away that we would not be able to do what we wanted to do if we're just an association. I even had a call of people saying, well, you know, you referred to the Knights of Columbus as an association. They are an association. I'm not talking against the Knights of Columbus. I'm talking about the powers that are inherent to an association in comparisons to a government. A government, the word says it, it governs. And now we have to look at different scenarios of powers, authority, jurisdiction that comes with the government and the association. So the Native Alliance of Quebec, in 2005, 21 of 25 communities left the Native Alliance of Quebec and joined the Confederation. They created the Confederation because of the powers that they wanted to have in the development, creation of the first Native government in Canada. So in order to be able to supply what they wanted, they moved from the Native Alliance of Quebec to the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Quebec that formed the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada. And after that, the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada officially declared its will to become a government. And in that will, they had to inform the Government of Canada, which is a foreign government to Aboriginal people. And that's when we were given the letters of modification that we are now called the Government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada. And he said, where did the name come from? So now I've explained to you the limitations in an association. An association is what people get into. It could be the Knights of Columbus, it could be the motorcycle associations, it could be anything. But when you create a government, you automatically announce your will to start governing yourselves. Why is that important? Because in 2005, on the website of the Government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, it was announced to the whole public that we were in the preliminary, excuse me for the tongue twister, phase of creating the first Aboriginal government of Canada. Because that was the mentality of the people. When they had their founding meeting, they said, we want to become a government. That did just appear like a stain of water on the grass. That appeared in the following development mentality of the native people across the world to bring to the biggest assembly in the world is the Assembly of the United Nations. And in 2007, in September, they created the resolution of the United Nations to say, Article 3 and 4, that we are allowed to have our government and our auto-determination. Because in the government, you determine what happens. Why is that phase important for the Government of the Confederation? Because the Government of the Confederation announced that in 2005. Yet the resolution was passed in 2007. And it was accepted except for 4 countries. There was New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and United States. Within a few months, Australia, New Zealand, and United States changed their mind. And they adopted the resolution in their own system. Canada was the only country not to adhere to welcome this resolution. And the resolution is in the General Information book that you can purchase and that you can read. It's like 500 pages back to back, and all the important stuff is underlined for you. If you need to purchase this, you call the office at 819-592-1313. 819-592-1313. And that's going to give you the ability that if somebody tells you that your card is not recognized, you're going to open the page and say, excuse me, I don't know if you know, but your minister approved this. This is approved by the Government of Canada. Why would you be so uneducated in the fact that we are recognized? Why would you not know that the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, that's represented by the government, that's represented by the Grand Council of Chiefs, that's then represented by the grassroots members that tells their chiefs what they want? Why would somebody say that we're not recognized when we exist? Why would somebody take a shot at the Confederation? There are reasons, and I'm going to be sharing them with you. But I need you to understand. The name was chosen, Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, for a few reasons. Because in that name initially, in that name, Confederation, we're going to take out of the solution. So if you look at the book, Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, we're taking the word Confederation completely out. We're looking at the Canadian Constitution, Article 35, but the information isn't here, and it says, the definition of Aboriginal people includes Indian, Métis, and Inuits. So, Aboriginal people of Canada. Aboriginal people of Canada includes Indian, Métis, and Inuits. From there, we've actually said, okay, how would we be able to announce to the whole public that we want to become a government? So if you look The word confederation, if you do a bit of research, the word confederation is like a government. The confederation means that the grassroots members, in the opposite of a federation, the grassroots members tell from the Aboriginal people of Canada's point of view what they want. So the word confederation is like the people of Aboriginal people of Canada that control the Grand Council of Chiefs say what they want. Following that, a few years later, we finally applied to get the word government, and initially it was given to us, then it was taken back. And then a pretty big lawsuit came up, and now it's our name. Because governments govern. That's what we do. So your structure cannot be blamed, your government cannot be blamed for being fraud, because it was accepted by the United Nations in 2007, and in 2016, such as said right in the book, 2016, the government of Canada has accepted this resolution within its own country without any modifications, exactly the way it is. And Article 3 and 4 say that we can govern ourselves and we can determine what we want. So, in 2005, the Confederation announces this to the grand world on its website and everywhere, in the press communique. That's what we want to do. From there, we are now given, our letters of modification have been approved by the Government of Canada, and now we have the word government. It took me a long time to accomplish this. And I gotta tell you that if somebody was to ask me to redo this again, I would refuse. It's too much energy, too much work, too much pushing to make it happen. But now we're there. Now it's acquired and accomplished. Now that I've been speaking to the Indians of the Plains, our brothers, and they now want to have a government or governing solution, situation, to be able to do what we do. And I've told them, why reinvent something that already exists? In these discussions, there is going to be a continuation, so I'm announcing to you something very important for you to understand. On the 25th of August, in Buckingham, which is Gatineau, at Le Quai des Artistes, that's the name of the place, Le Quai des Artistes, there's going to be the general annual meeting where your voice should be heard. In the multiple questions I was asked, I said, what happened? Why were people thrown out? We're obviously referring to Lise Brisebois, Gilles Gagné, and company, their group, which were banished from the Confederation because of the way they dealt their things. They took some money, they never gave it back. They were supposed to give us some reports, they didn't. And bottom line is Gilles Gagné became very abusive in the meeting, was asked to stop swearing, cursing, and being abusive. He refused and he was thrown out. And then there was a vote passed and they were all banished and identified as undesirable people. People are asking me that, and I got to tell you that I'm stunned, because I'm not the one that was thrown out. They were. Yet they're the ones upset. So the ones that are upset speak, the ones that are happy don't, because they have nothing to talk about. It's in the same way when there's an election. The ones that lose always speak out. The ones who win don't say anything, they won. But at that meeting, I need to reassure you of something. If you have something to say at the Government of the Confederation, it's your organization. You come there. If you're not a chief or a vice chief, you ask to speak and you will be given that. If you do not disrespect anybody, and if you don't curse, lie at anybody, which is disrespect, you will be allowed to ask anything you want, because this belongs to you. That's why we called it a confederation, because it's yours. Not come to a meeting and start throwing things and cursing and swearing. No. We are not an organization of boxing or threatening organization. We're not an organization a government that is there to listen to its grassroots members to be able to grow. So on the 25th, I'm expecting to see you, but many calls came through and tell me, well, the government of Canada is telling we don't exist and we're illegal. Like the Indian, they're on the reserve. We call him an Indian. We don't know what he is because he was never able to prove to us what he is, but he's a peacekeeper that said that we were doing fraud. He's not a judge. He's nothing. Why would he come and tell you that we're doing fraud when we're not? Why would they not, traditions, I'm a Mohawk, why would they not get a hold of us and say, could you kindly please come in and explain what you do? Why are we living this? Why are these people attacking us when we don't want anything to do with them? They're stuck on a reserve. They can stay there. I mean, we were never told where to live, and we will live where we want. We were not stuck on a reserve, and I respect everybody as well to live where they want. I mean, I have no problem with that. My problem is the fact that they would voluntarily go on CBC Canada, that's a crown corporation paid by the government, that really doesn't like what we're doing because we want independence from them, and we will have it. And say that we're fraud? What is the matter with this guy? Where does he come from? Who polluted his mind to do such an irritable, disrespectful comment against us when he doesn't even know us? In order to live on a reserve, so now people are asking me and say, could you explain to us the difference between the card of the Confederation and the Indian Affairs card? I can. I need to share something very, very technical and special. When the Europeans came here, there was no reserves. There was no government. There was us. The native people, the Indian people were living here before anybody else. Following that, the Europeans came here and they had the big Indian exclusion of the fight that was happening between the French and English. The Indian people didn't fight the French or the English. This was a debate between those two people, and regrettably for the French, the English won. And from there, the Royal Proclamation, which is also in the kit that you have to know. You have to read this kit to be able to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and why we're not doing fraud, and why everybody is so afraid of us. Because, I'm going to break my story here. If you're traveling in front of the Parliament, or in back of the Parliament, I should say, in Ottawa, and there's a whole bunch of benches there, and you see a homeless person on the bench, you're not going to be worried about him, because he's not a threat to you. Why do these people attack us? Because we're a threat to, they think we're a threat to them. When they look at us and say, well, those people are a threat to us. They're a threat, and they say that they're more Indian than we are. The guy said that on the internet. The people of the Confederation normally pass a DNA test. You know what? If you live on a reserve, you don't have to pass a DNA test to have a status card. You just got to be able to prove that you have ancestors that were living on that reserve. 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". So if we would actually bring to those people and say, we would like to compare your DNA test to ours and see what happens. Why would they not do it? Because they figured that by living on a reserve, they get special treatment. Well, let me tell you, the special treatment that comes to our people is not brought by the government. The government gives billions of dollars to AFN. There's 603 reserves and everybody's starving. Some people don't even have water or toilets. Something's wrong there. This is 2018. You come to my house, I have a toilet, and I have good water, and I have a good bed, and I can really help you out because that's what I'm about. I'm not upset at the guy in Ganawagi or the other ones that are afraid of us. I'm just saying that before you try and nail our name, use our name, or say lie that we're doing fraud, why don't you convey us to come and explain to you what we are? And why don't you let the real people, the grassroots members, to decide? And if the grassroots members, like the guy that said, Guillaume Carl says he represents everybody and he doesn't represent me, it's like we're short of members, eh? If he doesn't want to be represented, that's okay. He can stay alone as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't change my life. I'm saying that we have enough members, we have enough representation, and we are impartial. We're not controlled by money or by anything else. The important part of that is because in comparisons to the status card that we get, you get a card from a real Indian will, structure, and government. The government of Canada is not an Indian government. How come it's giving cards to people that are located on a reserve or can prove they had ancestors living on a reserve? How come Indian Affairs wouldn't say, by the way, are you Indian? Do you think you're Indian? Can you prove you're Indian? And the guy says, yeah, I can prove I'm Indian. I have 50% of Indian blood. Why would they be discriminated against? Why would they say that, well, we don't recognize an Indian as an Indian because he never lived on a reserve? How can we represent people that have that mentality? And that's why Lisbody's Bowen group were banished, because they did not share the fact that it's not a matter of me, it's a matter of us. My next step is very important. A lot of people are calling me, people are very happy. Some people say, well, could you restart a bit and explain this and that about the Confederation? Why the Confederation's mentality is to have its own government? Because we were here first and because we're allowed to have it. Why the Confederation is not responding to Radio Canada that says we're doing fraud? Because Radio Canada are allowed to think what they think. For example, Louis Cote did a false statement at Radio Canada about a dog. But the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, by its governance, so the government, in order to have a status card for the ones who have done it, the ones who didn't do it, we can't blame, we're giving you the information tonight. In order to pass a DNA test, you need your prints. You need 2 valid cards like a driver's license, a passport, a health card with a picture to identify who you are. Thirdly, we take a swab. Fourthly, we take your signature. All this is done in a very technical way where people have gloves and so on, and they do that, they don't touch, they put it in and they send it. The study comes back, and the study is not debatable. They throw people in jail with DNA. So let's not start thinking that an idiot went and printed a dog, took a driver's license or a passport or a health card of a dog, took his DNA, put it in an envelope and sent it over, and that we would have not known about it. So I have to tell you that when I contacted Via Guard, they said, Grand Chief, we don't know of a dog that has a driver's license or health card or a passport. We don't know of a dog that can print like a man. We don't know of a dog that can be identified as one of the official agents that could pass as a human. And finally, our shop is certified to find out if the dog is purebred or not. Do you think we would not see the difference between a dog and a man or a woman? And frankly, I got to tell you that I was surprised that some people would have been shaken by this, because the government of the Confederation would never allow something like that to happen. And we are able to tell you that the person that did that, Louis Cote, is a lying, two-faced, hypocritical person that has tried to take a shot at the Confederation because he doesn't belong to us either. He's also thrown out. So he has not acted in transparency. He's acted against us because we don't want him to be part of us, because he lied. Because at the end of the day, this guy is absolutely not an Aboriginal person. Because Aboriginal people don't lie. We have a code of conduct that actually if something's not right with you, don't go to the media and start some stupid attacks against people. Before you do anything like that, you come and see them. Why did Radio Canada interview me for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he put like 4 seconds of me on there? Because they know we're telling the truth. And you know why we're telling the truth? Because you can't tell the truth and lie at the same time. It don't exist. There's only one version, and it's the truthful one. If anybody tries to convince you there's two sides to a story, they're lying to you. So I want to finish on the last thing. Our Confederation, in the opposite of the Canadian government. The Canadian government, now if you read on Wikipedia, now the real story is out. The government of Canada is not a confederation like they said. Remember in 1867 and 1967, they said, my God, we have a confederation, we have to celebrate in Montreal and so on. The government of Canada is not built on the mentality of the confederation. It's built on the mentality of the federation. You elect people, they decide for you without asking you what you think. And you know where you're going to end up? You're going to end up exactly where we are. That the Prime Minister of Canada has sold all the gold in Canada. Nobody knows about that. He never asked anybody, but go and check. Type on Google. Canada sells all its gold. Look at it. So if we have no gold, what do we got? How is he able to manipulate the system and not asking you what you thought of that? And, you know, don't be disappointed because everything is like that. Now we're going through an election process in Quebec. We will take part of information and informing you on the government of Quebec. And you know what? We're going to help you choose who's the best Prime Minister. We also will carry the responsibility of giving you that information. I don't think we're going to make mistakes because we're going to give you the right time of day. Quebec need, Canada, and all the provinces, they need a people person to understand the retributions that come with the decisions they make and that they don't make. And that they have to look at real democracy because it's the people make the country. Would they be elected if there was nobody living in Quebec? Absolutely not. So why are they bypassing the real system of knowing what you want? We will be touching on that. I, as the National Grand Chief, I'm inviting you to the annual meeting, and I have to share a last thing with you before I leave you. If I see that I'm doing this and that the people are not doing their responsibility at identifying themselves and coming to these meetings, I will go do something else because I don't need a job. I don't need to be Grand Chief. I'm happy to represent you. I'm happy to help you, to teach you, to structure you, but I will not drag you by the hair. I think it's important for you to understand that the information contained into this is the basic information. You need to know that when somebody tells you that your card is no good or don't exist, you are able to say, excuse me, could you give me this in writing so we can sue them? Because they're not allowed to tell you that what you're doing is fraud. Your card is not fraud. Your card is a real ID card with 7 levels of security that even INAC cannot pay for because it's too expensive. So lastly, again, I'm inviting you at this annual meeting, and I'm actually requesting that you take a kit like this, because when we've got a couple of more of those meetings under our belt and you call me and you don't know nothing, I'm going to know that you didn't do with the responsibility you carry at understanding who you are in working at making sure that your children and their followers are well represented and that they're educated. So I want to thank you for being there tonight. If you so need to call me, my phone number is 613-795-8262. 613-795-8262. And I'm asking you officially, please share this with everybody that you have a contact with, to understand where we're going, what we're doing, the unity that brings our people together, and the responsibility tied behind it. So I tell you, Chimagwech, talk to you soon. Good night.